Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Friday, May 21st, and I'm inside my home office here in Placerville because it is not sunny enough to really sit outside and enjoy the patio. We're having a little cold spell here, which I personally love. So anyways, we are here, episode 6, Finding Bliss in Real Estate. No guests today, but we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is wealth building. So I love the idea of personal finances and building wealth. And so we're just going to do a little intro talk today about how real estate and owning home or owning homes relates to building your net worth. So let's just start with thank you, Brittany, at the gym today, who her and her fiance are thinking about buying a home. And she asked me, we're debating, should we buy now or soon, or should we wait until the market shifts and prices go down? And I said, girl, if you wait for prices to go down in California, and with this market and all the signs that there are, it's going to be 5+ years before we see a difference between where it's actually going to maybe make a difference between the interest rates and the prices. So with low interest rates, you have more buying power. And, conversely, if the prices go low enough, you have more buying power. But generally, when there's low interest rates, prices rise. And when interest rates rise, prices go down. So that's a whole other conversation. But it made me start thinking about when I was her age and newly married to my husband, and he had bought a house, and what that has really done for us over the years. We bought at it was him who bought the house, but I just take credit for it, right? We bought the house in 2006. And so we bought that house at seemingly the highest possible value for that home in that area. And almost immediately we're underwater. Within about a year and a half, our value is down quite a bit. And what he paid in on the loan versus what we owed, there was a difference, right? So there was more owed on the loan, is what I'm trying to say, than what we could sell it for at that time. And we stuck with it because we really didn't, honestly, we were young enough and naive enough, and we had jobs and enough money to cover, and we just stuck with it. And my husband was always insistent on paying a little bit more than the payment was. And eventually we refinanced, and there was a few other things, but in the end, when we did decide to move, because the timing was right and we wanted a change of pace and a change of location, we ended up with quite a bit of equity. So that's where I'm going to start, and what that looks like, and how does that help you in the long term versus continually being a renter. Nothing wrong with renting. And there's definitely different phases in our lives where renting is 100% appropriate and makes sense and helps you out. And I'm not bashing renting, so please don't take it that way. I just want to show you where real estate can really help you build your net worth. And why is net worth important? On a personal level, I think net worth is really important because I feel like I'm going to have a financially secure life. I already feel fairly financially secure, partially because I've been tracking those items, but I'm so excited for the day that I actually own my home. And then I don't have all these outgoing bills. And so net worth and wealth, that's why it's important to me. Not for a status number, not for I can get this toy or that toy or go here or go there, but it's the security. So to me, that American dream is really about, we have an opportunity here to have security on a level that you don't get everywhere in this world, where once we own this house, someone can't take it away from us. And not to say we don't still have taxes and so on. And I know you guys could come up with all the exceptions, and I know them, but in general, once you own a home, you are far more secure than if you don't. So let me look at my notes for a second. How does real estate lead us to building wealth? Okay, let's start there. So I think about if you're a renter and you're paying your monthly payment, whatever that may be, $1,000. You're paying it to the person who owns the house or who has the mortgage on the house, but your landlord, and they're taking that $1,000 a month and paying it off on their mortgage, and they are essentially becoming $12,000 richer every single year. If it's you, and I'm pointing to myself, if it's you who is paying that $1,000 a month on something that you will eventually own, every year, without really trying, you are becoming $12,000 richer. Okay. I know values can go up and down. So let's talk about that. So yes, values can go down and you can end up underwater. But if you have put yourself in a position that more than likely you're going to be with your job or your career for a good while, I know there's extenuating circumstances, and you have not overspent on a house, which we'll talk about in a minute, then you likely will be able to make it through any downturn without being overly concerned. And if you put enough as a down payment, you can actually probably stay ahead of any downturn that comes up. We'll talk about that in a minute too. So overall though, you're taking that money and you are becoming richer year after year purely by living in a house, which you have to do anyways, right? We have to have a roof over our head at some point. And so I understand getting into a house is hard, and there's so many recommendations out there and so many beliefs. There's beliefs that you have to have 20% down to get into a house. There's beliefs that you should never get into a house with a 0% down payment. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. You definitely don't have to start out with 20% down. And like, let's just be real. In California, that can be incredibly hard. Your first house that you purchase is by far the hardest one to get into because you have to pay your rent and save money above and beyond that in order to get your down payment. So once you're in, it becomes much easier. And it's the biggest thing that I've noticed over time. And I really started tracking this last year, and you can watch yourself become wealthier purely by putting that money toward your mortgage. On the other side of the coin is actually a lot of times we're in an up market, and usually an up market will supersede the down market. So if we go down a bit or even a lot, like we did in 7, 8, 9, you can come back up. So I'll go back to my first example of the house that my husband bought in 2006, and he bought it for $222,000. I think that's a lucky number. And at one point, I think it was worth probably about $150,000. And that was probably in 2009, 2010, right in there, right as I was getting into real estate. And I have a feeling our mortgage at that point was probably around 190, 195. So we were definitely underwater for sure. We didn't sell until 2017. And in those next 7 years, between 2010 and 2017, we sold our house for $283,000. So we went from $150,000 in value up and above and beyond what it was even worth in 2006. And some of that was my husband had bought a bit of a fixer that was cosmetically gnarly, and he got it clean and beautiful. And so that also helps your value. If you buy the thing that's already beautiful, doesn't really have anywhere to go from that standpoint. So anyways, picking a moderate fixer and sticking it out. Yeah, we were there 11 years. And I will tell you, we were in the boonies of Placerville, and it was not my favorite place, but we stuck it out. And I feel like we're so much better for it. So thank you, Eric, if you ever watch this episode. So that's massive wealth for a young person. And if you're doing some of the other wealth building strategies, which I may talk about in future episodes, that's just a huge thing. That's a lot of money that we could have taken and done other things. We put it toward our next house, which is why it's generally easier for people to get into their second house or third house and so on. It's because they build equity. And that's the basic foundations of equity. So not only are you putting that, say, 12,000, that's just my arbitrary number per year toward the principal and building your wealth that way, But as the market shifts and things become more valuable, you're also building your net worth in that direction. And yes, that can fluctuate. It does fluctuate. Anybody who ever tells you that it's only ever going to be an upstream from here, they're lying or they're ignorant. Yes, there will be downswings, but overall, you've got a fairly good safety net and you've still got a place to live. So even if values go down, you have a place to live. So there's a lot of security in that. I want to emphasize something, that the goal of home ownership to me is to actually own the home I'm living in. I know it seems crazy because I know people well into their 70s and 80s who are still paying on mortgages. And I don't want to criticize them, but I just think there's so much that if you can catch this when you're a little younger than that, that you can pay this off, pay off your own home. And whether you choose to stay or whether you choose to sell and take that cash and buy somewhere else in your retirement destination, it is such a difference. I mean, I think about it, and I'll be really honest, I'm in my late 30s and I'm going to have this house paid off by the time I'm in my mid 40s. I can't, I'm so excited about that, guys. So excited about that, because then I can take that extra money. My spending style is to probably just go on endless vacations, but I'm going to make the mature choice and probably put that toward some additional retirement investments, but we definitely could. We have more freedom by taking the opportunity and paying down your house faster. So what are some tips to doing that? Because it seems impossible, right? And you look at what you owe on a house, whether it's 150, 550, and you're like, holy cow, how do I ever pay that off? So tips to get there faster. First of all, don't overbuy in the first place. So really think about what is your take home, and your mortgage should not exceed 25% of your take home pay. All right, sorry, I had to get a water there. So back to it. Don't overbuy in the first place. 25% of your take home pay. That is pay after you've paid taxes, but before you've paid medical, etc. So if your income is $4,000 take home after taxes per month, then $1,000 a month should go towards your mortgage, which is your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So those four things, your total payment. And I'm just giving arbitrary quick math numbers. Okay. But that's the starter. Don't overspend, because then you will be, you'll have maybe a nicer house. However, you will always feel pinched for money. It'll be harder to buy groceries. If there's an emergency that comes up and you need to get a new fridge, that'll be harder. So try to really stick to that when you're thinking about buying a house. Okay. Number 2, pay some extra toward the principal each month. So it's a lot easier to pay extra if you stick to the first rule, which is starting out with less than 25% take home. And then you can say, hey, I've got an extra $100 this month. I'm going to pay down my mortgage just a little bit. That is something that my husband and I have always done, is take a little extra and put it toward that. So, a few less Starbucks or a few less pairs of jeans, whatever it is, that's your thing. Just a few less of those, and you can pay down your house faster. And I know not everyone wants to do it, but I think that the benefits are huge toward getting you paid off sooner. And I am presuming most of you guys would probably start with a 30-year loan, which is the traditional thing to do, because it keeps your payment lower. And you can actually pay off that 30-year loan faster. Believe it or not, there's no prepayment penalties on basically any mortgage out there. So don't fear paying it off sooner. Just do it. And then my last tip really is switch from that 30-year loan, refinance into a 15-year loan. You'll get a better interest rate, and you'll be paid off within 15 years. And then when you're paying extra on that, you can actually pay it off even sooner than that. So I know that doesn't always seem feasible to start with, and I'm not saying you have to do it to begin with. At our old house, we were probably in it about 7 or 8 years. And then we did refinance into a 15-year mortgage, thinking we were going to stay there for the long haul. And then we moved, but that's a whole other story. But it did help us pay things off a lot faster. And what had happened in the meantime of us being together for 8+ years was incomes changed. So, if you're young and you're getting into your first place and your down payment starts out at say 5% down, but it keeps you in that 25% a month, then good, just go along. And then if your incomes increase, which generally they do between your 20s, 30s, and 40s, then you can pay a little bit more. Maybe you get to a point where you feel like you can refinance for 2 reasons. You can refinance to get out of that mortgage insurance, which once you own 20% of the house, you can do. You can also switch into that 15-year loan, and then you'll be golden. So anyways, these were my beginning thoughts on wealth building in real estate. I love this topic, and there's like endless things to talk about beyond just wealth building in real estate, but wealth building in general. And I just think it's so important for us to be intentional about these things. Intentionality in general in life makes me feel proud of what I do because I can reflect on it. And I think it makes life a little easier. If you ever have questions about, where your mortgage is and should I refinance or not, or am I on the right track? I'm definitely not a wealth building coach, but I certainly can help you answer any questions about those types of real estate things. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope that this sparked a little interest for you in wealth building and in buying a house and the reasons why it's so important. I know you probably have all sorts of things because there's lots of stuff out there on other reasons why it's great to be a homeowner. But those are just a couple things that I don't think are always thought about. So you guys have a wonderful day. Enjoy the last little week in May, and I'll see you next Friday for episode 7. Talk to you soon.